Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is your host, Dr. Aftab Ahmed, with the program Innovative Pakistan with Dr. Aftab. And today, as I mentioned before, we have a very renowned person with us today, Mr. Qadeer Qureshi. He's a person actually working for Science Ki Duniya. That's a very famous platform in Pakistan, providing true science in Pakistan in Urdu language. That's, I think, is a great contribution that you can learn the real science in Pakistan and also in the Urdu language, because it's like there is a lot of literature. You can also access those literature in English language and you can find the reliable information. But as Mr. Qureshi, he was mentioning that there is a lot of content in Urdu that is also available, but mostly it's not the real science, it's the pseudoscience. So
Correct.
he is actually providing the true scientific information because the group he is running, they properly manage it. They filter the information and they only share the reliable information which are important for our kids and they could learn more about science. So we will continue our discussion. And in this discussion, as we have the title of this discussion as science and pseudoscience, so we will definitely ask our host to tell us a little more about what is actually, he was actually discussing what is actual science. So now we will ask to shed more light
Mhm.
what is actually, so people think that this is science, but that is not actually the science. So
Mhm.
what is this pseudoscience? And
So,
what impact
right,
this can create on the minds of our
right.
younger generation?
So, pseudoscience is any claim that appears to be scientific,
Hmm.
but it's not actually based on authentic science, genuine science, right? So, one thing about science is any scientific claim is always, I want to emphasize, always based on objective data, right?
Hmm.
And when we say objective data, it is not, well, I saw that, or I have heard it, or my parents told me, or my
Hmm.
teacher told me, right?
Hmm.
Objective data is something which is not dependent on human senses.
Hmm.
It is data that is measured using scientific instruments,
Right.
right? So
Hmm.
when we say, temperature is 32 degrees,
Hmm.
that is not, I feel temperature is 32 degrees. That's a thermometer, that's a device
Hmm.
that is not dependent on my feeling, right?
Right.
Because you may have noticed that the same temperature, one person says, oh, it's so cold, the other one says it's so hot, right?
Yeah, that's
In the,
true.
in the same room, right?
Yeah.
That's because every person may have different perception, right?
Hmm.
But when we say temperature, that's a measured quantity using scientific instruments. So that is science. When a claim is made which is based on objective data, that's
Hmm.
science, right?
Right.
Pseudoscience is when you hear a claim which sounds scientific,
Hmm.
um, that is not based on data, or at least not reliable data, right? I mean, data can be reliable, data can be unreliable also, right?
Right.
If, for example, we say, you know, eating, let's say, eating, onion
Hmm.
can cure cancer.
Hmm.
Well, the question is, have someone run true scientific studies where he has taken people who have cancer
Hmm.
and then divided that into two groups, one where people are eating onions, other people are not eating onions, and have that study done for a couple of years and then monitor results, right?
Hmm.
That will be a somewhat scientific study. But to say, my halu had cancer and he ate onions and
He was
he
cured.
was cured,
Hmm.
that's not a scientific claim, that's a pseudoscientific claim, right?
Right.
In our culture, because our culture, traditionally, like, thousands of years ago, is based on oral tradition,
Hmm.
right? uh, Even today that culture persists, even though now we are in a scientific age where everyone has cell phones, everyone has internet, we use all the modern technology,
Hmm.
but our mindset is still traditional,
Hmm.
where we trust what we have been told by people that we trust, as opposed to what have been told by scientists, right? So if a scientist says no, eating onion has no impact on cancer, we will not trust that. But
Hmm.
if we hear from our halu or from our parents or our teacher that eating onion can cure cancer, we would find that more trustworthy, right? That's
Mhm.
our national, cultural character, which is fine for
Mhm.
cultural, issues. But when we talk about health issues,
Mhm.
um, health is too important for us to be swayed by our biases. This is a bias. Our bias is that anything we hear from our parents has to be more reliable than what we hear from strangers, right?
Right.
So the whole idea of science is we have to go beyond our biases and
Mhm.
just look at data, right? And pseudoscience is when people sort of convey non-scientific claims, but in a language that sounds scientific, right?
Mhm.
So when we say, let's say, you know, uh, experts have claimed that eating onion causes cancer. Now that starts sounding like a genuine claim because now experts are claiming it.
Mhm.
But the question is, who is the expert, right? Which
Right.
expert made that claim?
Mhm.
So this is how people who sell, these fake, medicines,
Mhm.
they try to sway people, right? Scientific study has shown that this toothpaste, removes plaque or something.
Right.
Well, one has to ask which scientific study, right?
Mhm.
And if it says, oh, there was this, two people in lab coats,
Mhm.
they said that, right?
Mhm.
Well, that's not a scientific study, right?
Yes, that's true.
So
Mhm.
we have not only the right, we have the responsibility to ask questions.
Right.
Okay, so if experts say this thing, who are those experts? When did they say that, right? In the end, science is not what scientists say. Science is what data shows,
Mhm.
right? And there are some scientists who, for whatever reason, can be bought to
Mhm.
say things which are not accurate. Just to give you one example, in 50s, 60s, and 70s
Mhm.
in the US, there was huge data available that demonstrated that smoking causes cancer.
Right.
Well, I mean, that was a very bad message for the tobacco industry.
Mhm.
So what tobacco industry did is they hired some, relatively educated, PhD, scientists, and gave them tons of money,
Mhm.
and asked them to start propagating this misinformation
Mhm.
that there's no causal relationship between smoking and cancer, right? Now, those people, because one, that their name had PhD in microbiology or PhD in biology or PhD in this or PhD in that, and they were writing articles in newspapers, they're writing books, right? Saying that there's no causal link between smoking and cancer. Yes, cancer is increasing, but there are other reasons why cancer is increasing, right? Um, so they were not showing us what data leads them to this conclusion.
Mhm.
Um, but they were making these claims. So the idea being, just because a scientist says something, that doesn't make it scientific either, right?
Right.
We have the right and we have the responsibility to ask them, show us data, right?
Mhm.
And if there's no data, then we really should not take that as an article of faith that because we think science is reliable and because these people claim to be scientists, their claim is correct, right? So I know it's not easy,
Mhm.
right? But the difference between science and pseudoscience is the fact that science is based on data and pseudoscience is based on essentially misleading information
Mhm.
which may be portrayed as scientific information, right? Sometimes you will see uh, scientific words being used to convey, right? So in particular when it comes to medicine,
Mhm.
there's a lot of pseudoscientific claims, right?
Right. Mhm.
And people will say, quantum healing, right?
Mhm.
Or quantum scientific, studies have proven that this medicine works. Well, I'm sorry, quantum physics has nothing to do with health, right?
Mhm.
Quantum physics is how electrons and neutrinos and fundamental particles how they behave, and at the most atoms. When it comes to even larger molecules,
Mhm.
quantum effects are meaningless. They don't mean anything, right? So if someone is using quantum in relation to anything which is macro level, well, that is pseudoscience, right? So just because someone is using, fat scientific words, that doesn't make it scientific either, right? So that's where, so, before the break, we were talking about, what can we do to promote science and all that. What I want to say is it is very important that people are educated in science so that they can make informed decisions about everything, but in particular about health, because most pseudoscientific claims are really about health products, right?
Right.
And unfortunately, in our culture, it is more prevalent. So, I have seen these people who say, well, we have this, detoxification, diet or detoxification, plan. And they would have elaborate schemes, like they would put your feet in water and you'll see something, getting out of our feet, some quote unquote dirt getting out of water. And, they'll tell you, look, this shows that, toxic chemicals are getting out of your body. Well, I'm sorry, toxic chemicals don't get out of skin, right? We have liver, which detoxifies. We have, kidneys, which do detoxify. And human body is perfectly capable of detoxifying. We don't need any, you know, external material, external effort to detoxify. If you want to detoxify, well, we have to improve our lifestyle, right? We have to walk more. We have to have good, sleep, proper sleep. We have to improve our diet. Uh, we keep on toxifying ourselves, and then we don't trust our body to detoxify, but we, go to these, charlatans who claim that they can detoxify our body. Anyone who says, detoxification, by definition, that's pseudoscience.
Right.
Because, as I said, human body is perfectly capable of detoxification. What we need to do is make sure we are not overloading our, liver and our kidneys. So that's just one example, but
There are so many.
another example I can give you is astrology, right? Palmistry. Uh, Now, when you study astrological literature, you will feel that they have huge amount of objective data, because they talk about a, you know uh, moon is right now in, this constellation, and the sun is this constellation, and you look at NASA data and you find out, yes, that is true. Moon is there. So they give you the impression that they are using the latest charts, star charts, right? Which is all fine, but using scientific data is not enough. If you're drawing wrong conclusions from that data, that's also pseudoscience, right?
Right.
So palmistry and, astrology, this is a prime example. Especially astrology is a prime example where they are using correct data, scientific data, right? But then the conclusion they draw is, okay, this month is not good for you because sun is in, such and such constellation. Well, that's all nonsense, right? So this is what we need to educate our, population, populace, that it's our responsibility to educate ourselves so that we can distinguish between scientific and pseudoscientific claim, right? It is appalling to me. I came here only, a couple of weeks ago after many, many years, and the number of programs where astrologers are telling people what is going to happen to our country and what is going to happen to you and to business and all that. Well, making predictions is very easy, right? You can, toss a coin and make prediction,
Right.
right? What happens is you ask them after the fact, okay, tell me how many predictions you made and how many of them came true and how many of, did not come true, right? That's how you find out whether, what's their track record.
Yes.
And their predictions are also vague, right? That's another way you distinguish between science and pseudoscience. Pseudoscientific claims are always very, very precise. And not only they give you very precise prediction, they also give you prediction error, right? They will tell you, the uh, for example, let me see what example I can give you that people will relate to. So when we measure distance between Earth and Moon,
Mhm.
right? They measure the difference with millimeter accuracy,
Mhm.
right? And yet they give you plus minus error, plus minus zero point 0.3 centimeter or something like that. That is how scientific data is presented.
Right.
They know that they are never perfect.
Mhm.
There's a known precision.
Mhm.
The instruments that they use to make measurements, they have known precision and known accuracy. Right?
Right.
Precision and accuracy are two slightly different things. So they always specify, error bars. We call it error bars, right? If they say, let's say 1093 miles
Mhm.
plus minus 1 mile,
Mhm.
that means it could be 1092 to 1094, right?
Right. Mhm.
That's what this error bar means. So they will always specify error bars.
Right.
Pseudoscientific claims, they will say this is how it is 100%, right?
Mhm.
But they will never specify what's their confidence level, or what's the chances of them being wrong, right?
Mhm.
So these are little things that people can use to distinguish between what is science, what is pseudoscience, right? Precision, accuracy, using scientific data
Mhm.
and making scientific correct scientific conclusions, right?
Mhm.
Um, so going back to astrology,
Mhm.
if an astrologer says, you know, the moon is in this constellation and sun is in this constellation, that means, or Venus is in this constellation, that means next month will be bad.
Mhm.
We have to ask. We should have right to ask. Okay, on what data are you saying that these positions mean that next month is bad?
Mhm.
What impact a position of moon
Mhm.
or a planet
Mhm.
could have on whether I will have an accident or not, right?
Mhm.
When I'm driving a car, it is on the road.
Mhm.
It has zero influence from Venus, and in particular, zero influence from Venus's alignment to
Mhm.
some arbitrary stellar configuration, right?
Mhm.
So on what basis are they making that claim, right?
Mhm.
If it's historical, then show me the data. How many times the Venus has been in that particular constellation,
Mhm.
and we should see a bump in number of accidents.
Mhm.
Well, I'm sorry, we don't see that bump.
Right.
The accidents are more correlated with if there's fog,
Mhm.
if it's early morning or late night, and the
Mhm.
light conditions, which are all local conditions, right?
Mhm.
And it is correlated with if my car is not very well maintained,
Mhm.
right? If my brake fails, or my suddenly my engine stops and I stop in the middle of a highway, well, that is what is going to cause increase my chances of accident. But moon in certain position, I'm
Mhm.
sorry, that doesn't impact
So
anything
you're
in
right.
life.
So actually, you was right that since you came to Pakistan, and
Mhm.
you might have seen more program on astrology rather on the science
Yes.
in many of the mainstream media.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit more about you know astrology since ages.
Mhm.
So they have wealth and knowledge. Why that is like more appealing to the persons, and they are they want to listen those
Yes.
kind of
Yes. Yes. Yes.
information. That's why they are on the main media.
Right. Right.
So for science, how that's first part, and the
Mhm.
other part is how we can make science more appealing for
Mhm.
the people, so they
Mhm.
can also listen in the same way they are listening the
Well,
astrology.
I mean, one thing that we can easily see, everyone should be able to see.
Mhm.
We look around our neighborhood, right? I am in late 60s, right? I was born in Rawalpindi. Um, when I was in school,
Mhm.
we used to get things which are made in Pakistan and things which are made in China. And it was understood that things which are made in Pakistan were better quality than things made in China, right?
Mhm.
What happened in those 50 years that now China has become a superpower? Well, what happened was 30 years ago, Dao Xiaoping, their leader at that time, made a conscious decision
Mm-hmm.
that if we want to compete, we have to promote science and technology, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
They started scientific curriculum in their schools and colleges.
Mm-hmm.
They imported a lot of experts to promote science locally, uh, and see where they are today, right?
Mm-hmm.
Science is the basis of technology,
Mm-hmm.
and technology is basis of revenue.
Mm-hmm.
You look at India, they are getting, billions and billions of dollars of,
Direct
exports
foreign,
in
definitely.
technology.
Mm-hmm.
Just look at
Definitely.
space technology,
Yeah.
right? There's this, you know, very common narrative.
Mm-hmm.
Why are we spending money on space technology? It's
Mm-hmm.
just waste of money. Well, no, it's not a waste of money, right?
Right.
Just look at Elon Musk.
Mm-hmm.
He is about to become trillionaire,
Mm-hmm.
right? He's the richest man in the world, and the biggest revenue source that he has is space
Space
technology,
to
right?
definitely. Mm-hmm.
Space is the next, frontier,
Mm-hmm.
and the kind of money people are spending on space. Uh, yes, common people doesn't see that yet,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because they are planning for the future.
Right.
But you know, spending money on technology today
Mm-hmm.
gives you the biggest bang for the buck,
Mm-hmm.
right? There's also this notion that you know we can't afford to do scientific research. Well, you can go and look at statistics of US government.
Mm-hmm.
When they spend money on infrastructure, on everything, and what's their return on investment.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest return on investment is actually when they invest in basic sciences.
Mm-hmm.
The cycle is very long; it
Mm-hmm.
takes 10 to 20
Definitely.
years, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's how they ensure their future,
Mm-hmm.
because the money that they're spending now on science and technology is going to give them benefit 10 years, 15 years, 20 years from now, right?
Right.
So it's not an immediate return,
Mm-hmm.
but the return is huge.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Look at India. Where was it 30, 40 years ago and where it is now?
Mm-hmm.
They are part of the same culture. Their mindset
Yes,
is
in
pretty much the same,
1990s, we
right?
were like much ahead than
Yes,
India in almost all the
right,
parameters. If
right,
we even talk about China,
right.
till 1995, China was among the top 10 poorest countries of Asia,
Exactly,
not only in the world
exactly.
but in
Yes,
Asia.
right,
And from 1990 to 2010, they pull out
exactly.
750 million people out of
Out of poverty,
poverty.
exactly,
So, like that's a miracle they have
exactly,
done, and you are
exactly.
quite right that
Right.
all that is based on the first investment on science and technology,
Yes,
on the science, and then they develop the
exactly,
technology, and then
exactly.
they
Right,
like help the technology to develop China, and also they are now developing the world.
right,
So definitely, I totally agree with you that we have to definitely more
exactly.
spend
And if
on.
you look at Asia,
Mhm.
21st century is being called, century of Asia,
Mhm.
because Asia is rising, right?
Right.
I mean, more than half the world population is in Asia,
Mhm.
right? If you look at China, you look at India, even look at Bangladesh,
Mhm.
they are coming up very, very fast.
Right.
And there's this notion that, all ships rise with tide.
Mhm.
So tide is actually in our favor. We have a
Right.
lot of, tailwind right now.
Mhm.
It is our responsibility to take advantage of that, right?
Mhm.
Well, why is tide rising? Because there is a lot of manpower here.
Mhm.
What we need is make our manpower skilled manpower.
Right.
Manpower enough is not enough,
Mhm.
right? Skilled manpower is what is needed. But
Mhm.
how do we make skilled manpower?
Mhm.
We empower our kids today.
Right.
We help them understand science today so that they can become technologists tomorrow, and
Mhm.
they can become exporters of technology day after tomorrow,
Mhm.
right? This is not magic.
Mhm.
This is very, very predictable.
Mhm.
You take any country and you look at how much of their budget is going towards science and technology,
Mhm.
and correlate that with 10 years, 20 years later,
Mhm.
how much revenue they are generating from technology.
Mhm.
It's a very, very simple correlation,
Mhm.
right? So if we want to succeed 10 years down the road,
Mhm.
I mean, we also have to accept that there's no magic bullet.
Right.
ऊपर से कोई नहीं आएगा, right?
Mhm.
We have to change ourselves.
Definitely.
And the way we change ourselves is, you know, accept that we have to study science, accept
Mhm.
that we have to, excel in technology.
Mm-hmm.
and that is not going to happen by blaming others, blaming conspiracies. You know, China could have blamed West because West doesn't like China, right? They
Mm-hmm.
are putting every effort
Mm-hmm.
to curb China's growth.
Right.
China has not grown because West wants them to grow.
Mm-hmm.
China has grown despite West's effort to stop their growth, right?
Definitely.
So this notion that we just sit around and blame others,
Mm-hmm.
कि वो हमारे खिलाफ साजिश कर रहे हैं, they are doing this, they are doing that.
Right.
This is self-defeating,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
We have to wake up and smell roses, as they so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, we have to wake up that next 20, 30, 40 years is our
Mm-hmm.
opportunity.
Right.
China, India, Bangladesh, all other Asian countries, all other Arab countries, they
Mm-hmm.
are coming very fast, right?
Mm-hmm.
Arab countries have this luxury that they have a lot of money.
Right.
We don't have a lot of money,
Mm-hmm.
but we have a lot of young generation. We
Definitely.
are one of the youngest countries in the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's not waste that talent.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that Indian or Chinese, they are more talented than others.
Mm-hmm.
India and Pakistan, especially, we have the same genetics,
Mm-hmm.
same culture, same everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, 70 years, 75 years ago, we were, same country, right?
Mm-hmm.
So cultures don't change that much. They have deliberately, implemented policies
Mm-hmm.
that resulted in, their science and technology sector
Mm-hmm.
booming.
Mm-hmm.
And, we have to make that choice also.
Right.
We have to accept.
So I will actually wanted to ask you. I met with Bruce Albert, so
Mm-hmm.
you might know him.
Mm-hmm.
He was the president of American National Academy of Sciences.
Mm-hmm.
So I asked him that he'd been to over 100 countries, and he
Mm-hmm.
was also advisor to Obama at that time.
Mm-hmm.
He's a very famous scientist. So we
Mm-hmm.
also used to read his book, Molecular Biology of the Cell.
Right,
So
right.
I remember from that book actually. So once I met him in a meeting in South Africa, and we had a lot of discussion about like science in developing countries and
Mm-hmm.
also the developed countries. So he actually at that time he told me that just like we have National Academy of Sciences in US,
Mm-hmm.
and one of the main role of our National Academy of Science is to see what problems are coming in front of US in next like 20 years, 30 years,
Mm-hmm.
uh, till a century. And then we advise to the government that you have to make the policies
Right.
in a way. And we had like more discussion about the primary education and secondary education because that's the base
Mm-hmm.
on which you have to like build
Right.
our generation. So he mentioned that in like most of what he has observed in most of the developed world, they have more like focus on problem solving. So they give real life problem to the
Mm-hmm.
youngsters at
Mm-hmm.
school level. And this is what he mentioned that in Pakistan, if you have to really succeed
Mm-hmm.
in science and
Mm-hmm.
technology, you have to give to the problem to our
Yes.
at the school level. So like to the smaller kids, they could be the simple problem,
Mm-hmm.
and when they are, and that should be like more their real life experience,
Right.
whatever like problem they are facing.
Right.
Just like you have given the examples in our previous discussion. So
Mm-hmm.
the simple things, the
Right.
simple concept, why there is a dirt moving out from the
Mm-hmm.
carpet or
Mm-hmm.
something like that.
Right.
So I think so. This is like you've been to US for
Mm-hmm.
the last 30, 40
40
years.
years. Right.
So 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
So can you give a comparison of like you have seen the education system in
Mm-hmm.
Pakistan and also in
Mm-hmm.
somewhat in the US.
Right.
So what is the difference of the education system? Especially, I like have some understanding because I spent some time in different US
Mm-hmm.
universities. So I know that the university education is like
Right.
very good in US because they are sharing a lot of information. But what about the primary
Mm-hmm.
education?
Mm-hmm.
So can you please like and how, what we can learn
Right.
from like having our own system, but how we can improve the system?
Right. So one thing that I think there's a cultural difference,
Mm-hmm.
which is here we teach our kids. Uh, this is teacher. He is, sitting on a pedestal, right? Which is fine. You have to respect your teacher,
Mm-hmm.
but ability to ask questions,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and the ability of teacher to answer questions,
Mm-hmm.
right? That is, I think, the primary difference.
Right.
Um, I think more than teaching our students, we have to train our teachers
Mm-hmm.
how to keep on rekindling that, curiosity that kids naturally have,
Mm-hmm.
instead of curbing it, right? Whenever you make a curriculum, by definition, you are curbing their curiosity. But
Mm-hmm.
curriculum is a necessity also, right?
Mm-hmm.
But within the curriculum, um, little things that teachers can do, give students small projects,
Mm-hmm.
right? A simple thing like here's a seed, right? Maybe wheat. You know, go home, take a small pot,
Mm-hmm.
gamla, right? And then sow it, water it, and then see how it grows, right? Or take 4 or 5 or 6 seeds, and make separate pots. Put some of them in dark room,
Mm-hmm.
some of them in sun, and see what the difference is, right?
Right.
When they read these things, probably it doesn't sink in, but when they try it themselves,
Definitely. So.
then
Mm-hmm.
that is a वो हमारे इस्लाम में भी ये नोशन है ना कि इल्मुल यकीन, the book knowledge that
Mm-hmm.
we read, ainul yaqeen when we see something on our own, and hakul yaqeen when we practice something and we see. So that hakul yaqeen is what kids need, right?
Definitely. Mm-hmm.
And that they can only do when they do it themselves. So when kids do something, yes, they're going to make mess also.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be afraid of, and this is my message to mothers also.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when kids are making mess, they are actually experimenting. They are being scientists, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yes, that makes more work for parents,
Mm-hmm.
especially moms
Mm-hmm.
in the house. But you know, for the sake of having the house clean, don't kill their curiosity. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Give them some space where they can make their hands dirty, and they can experiment. And yes, they'll break some things, right?
Right.
But that's how they learn, right?
Mm-hmm.
Another thing which is not really directly related, um, that the uh, rate of allergies is going up very, very rapidly.
Mm-hmm.
And as Pakistan is progressing, especially in cities where now people have more awareness and more access to health services and all that, um, the rate of allergies is increasing in Pakistani kids also, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, now experts are figuring out that the reason allergies are going up is because when kids are kids,
Mm-hmm.
they are not exposed to germs. They are
Right.
not exposed to the environment which
Mm-hmm.
trains the immune
Immune
system
system. Yeah.
what to attack, what not to attack.
Mm-hmm.
And immune system is immune system. It wants to attack things,
Mm-hmm.
right? And when it doesn't find dangerous things to attack, it starts attacking things which are benign, right?
Mm-hmm.
So autoimmune diseases, they are going up. Allergies, they're going up. So let kids be kids, play
Mm-hmm.
with dirt, get their hands dirty,
Mm-hmm.
but they are being scientists at that time, right? They are learning from experience also.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's what home environment, school environment, and then as educators, as people who are podcasters,
Mm-hmm.
you know, better podcasts, more interesting content, regular media, print media, right? Give more space to science, promote science.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of bickering going on, political bickering, religious context, which is all needed. I mean, that's that kind of dialogue is also needed.
Yeah.
But
Mm-hmm.
let's recognize that promoting science is also important, maybe more important than political bickering,
Mm-hmm.
because that's where the future is.
Mm-hmm.
In the end, our current um, politicians,
Mm-hmm.
they have demonstrated that they are not going to do anything, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it is now responsibility of individuals
Mm-hmm.
that we have to do things on our own.
Okay, so actually, I would like to that you should also spend some light on the technology you are working. But before that, I think that will talk in the last 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
The chip technology, where
Right.
we are in Pakistan, and what countries they are
Mm-hmm.
actually taking the leading role in that, and what impact it can have. But before that, I
Mm-hmm.
would like to ask you. This is also a bit like not that much relevant, but also relevant to what we are discussing right
Mm-hmm.
now. and that is about innovation and entrepreneurship, the culture of
Mhm.
innovation, because you are in the US, and
Right.
US is quite popular for
Right.
innovation and entrepreneurship, and
Right.
that has actually played a very important role in
Correct.
US economy. That
Correct.
has played an important role. If we talk about the Chinese economy,
Mhm.
if we talk about the Indian economy, they
Correct.
are like boosting the startup culture
Correct.
in those countries. So how, as you have mentioned, that in Pakistan we have a huge young population,
Mhm.
and they are
Mhm.
like they are mostly serving in other countries. They are
Right.
spending their youth in
Right.
like in jobs.
Mhm.
So what kind of, how we can promote, actually on the basis of your experience, the
Mhm.
startup culture in
Mhm.
Pakistan, how we can promote the innovation and
Mhm.
entrepreneurship, that because that's also one of the needed.
Right.
And if Pakistan have to prosper very quickly,
Mhm.
we have to also focus on, the initial thing is we have to focus on science, then we have to focus on the technology. We
Right.
get develop that technology, and also about the innovation and entrepreneurship.
Right.
So how we can in
Mhm.
Pakistan promote this culture?
So I came to Pakistan after 7 years,
Hmm.
and I am very pleasantly surprised that the startup culture in Pakistan thrive, is
Hmm.
thriving,
Hmm.
and is very much alive and kicking,
Hmm.
which is very encouraging. Right
Right.
now, I am not aware of what government is doing to
Hmm.
promote this, encourage this, but I know that at individual levels, right, young kids,
Hmm.
uh, you know, uh, using AI, using modern technology, using software development skills, they're doing a lot of work. So which is very very encouraging. And what I see is Pakistan right now seems to be where India was 20 years ago,
Hmm.
right? So we are behind, absolutely,
Hmm.
but I think startup culture is taking roots very very quickly.
Hmm.
Um, Again, part of that I think is government's job
Hmm.
to facilitate that, to encourage that, and if there are any roadblocks in terms of uh, programs, in terms of rules and regulations and requirements,
Hmm.
again, I'm sorry, because I've been out of the country for such a long time. I don't know how much the bureaucratic culture has changed, whether it's still the same or it's a little bit more open to change.
Hmm.
So that's one thing,
It's also
facilitating.
adopting actually.
That's good. That's very good to know.
Hmm.
Um, but again, my concern is that kids that I see coming up with these, innovative ideas and startups and all that,
Hmm.
they tend to come mostly from, privileged class
Hmm.
who have gone to, private schools, who have gone to good universities here.
Hmm.
Um, the question is, how do we enable kids who are less privileged? That's one thing that I am trying to figure out. What can we do to promote science there
Hmm.
and to bring new technology to them, right?
Right.
Things
Hmm.
like AI and ChatGPT,
Hmm.
right? One of the things that you see in Western countries also, um, going to a formal school, like by school I mean university,
Hmm.
4 year college, is becoming less and less important now.
Hmm.
It's not that it's not important, it's important for other reasons.
Right.
But if the goal is to do something in technology,
Hmm.
right? Technology has become so accessible now
Hmm.
that even a novice person spending a few months
Hmm.
learning AI, learning ChatGPT, how to use ChatGPT, learning all the other AI-based tools,
Hmm.
learning software development environments, uh, can become productive very very quickly, right?
Hmm.
And so the problem becomes, people have to provide, people like us,
Hmm.
right, who have some understanding, provide access to these kids
Hmm.
and give them some kind of a ready-made environments where they
Hmm.
can quickly become productive.
Hmm.
Once we do that, then sky's the limit, right?
Hmm.
Because talent is there. Kids are already tech savvy in that every kid has cell phone.
Hmm.
They are familiar with internet, with all the basic tools, Google and all that.
Hmm.
We have to take them to the next level,
Hmm.
and the effort required now is much less than effort would have been required 20, 30 years ago, right?
Hmm.
So if we are able to cover somehow that gap,
Hmm.
enable these kids who are in streets, right?
Mhm.
Not privileged kids, but kids who are less privileged, who don't have access to high class universities, right?
Mhm. So actually, I wanted to ask you a question. How does, we have like two more things. How universities can adopt in the era of AI and
Hmm.
ChatGPT.
Hmm.
How we should like universities, if we talk about our future
Right,
education, how they could adapt to the system of the modern system because the technology is readily available. How they can like
right,
make the kids. And on the other side, we have a big problem in Pakistan because according to statistics, we have like 25 million children they are not reaching the school.
exactly,
So how
exactly,
the technology can help those?
right.
If you quickly can answer, and then we'll definitely we have like something about the chip because
Yes,
time is very short. We have
yes,
a program like for 2 hours, and it seems like we should talk for the whole day to
exactly,
cover the topics.
exactly, right. So I think university education also, I have seen that it is changing very, very quickly and in the right ways, right?
Mhm,
Um, to be very honest, when we are overseas,
mhm,
we tend to only get negative news about Pakistan, right? So there are this, news about, some teachers or professors who have paper mills who write papers just for the sake of writing papers, and they have made their own journals where they publish their own papers or reference each other's papers and do that. And I'm sure that that happens also. But I also see at the ground level now that I am here that a lot of teachers are actually making genuine effort to
mhm,
modernize, to integrate latest technologies in their education and enabling kids
mhm.
to participate in this digital economy, right?
Right.
And that's where we need to go. I think in a way, technology has made development of technology much easier also, right?
Mhm.
And universities are adapting,
Right.
and I think they're adapting fast.
Mhm.
Um, so what I've seen, makes me very, very hopeful that Pakistan, at least in the technology front,
Mhm.
has bright future. Excuse me.
Right.
Um, so more of the same, right?
Mhm.
Teachers need to adapt more and more of these new technologies and see what kids can do with um, ChatGPT and Bard and Google,
Mhm.
whatever new technology coming down the pike. What we have to be careful about is we don't have luxury of waiting.
Mhm.
Things are changing too fast, right?
True.
And so the gap between developed countries and underdeveloped countries is not decreasing; it's increasing.
Mhm.
We have good momentum here, right?
Mhm.
And again, government maybe is doing something, maybe it's not, but let's not wait for government to do something, right? People like us, you, myself, at individual level, let's see what we can do
Mhm.
to keep that momentum going.
Right. So the other question was like how we can bring 25 million people because they
Yes,
are not having any
yes,
education in
yes,
Pakistan. So what,
yes.
how technology can help?
So there also, one of the reasons I came here is because that is really the crux of the problem that I want to work on, right?
Mhm.
How to bring those kids, 25, 30 million kids who don't even access to school.
Mhm.
So my assumption is that even those kids have access to a cell phone, a
Mhm.
smartphone, right? Once they have that, what people who understand technology need to do is build small portals where we can deliver little pieces of scientific information,
Mhm.
right, in a way that they find exciting. Which
Mhm.
means these are the kids who don't speak English,
Mhm.
which is why I emphasize, Urdu
Definitely.
content. These are the kids who probably most of them, not all of them, most of them are not inherently going to be interested in science, right?
Mhm.
So we have to package scientific information as games, as learning, games where they is engaging,
Mhm.
and there are some layers where they have to get to one level where they win something that enables the next layer where
Right.
there's more information,
Mhm.
and people who are smarter than me need to come up with how do we make this thing exciting, right?
Mhm.
And I am very much open to talking to anyone
Mhm.
who can help me with this infrastructure to enable. I can write content,
Mhm.
write meaning the information.
Right.
I can develop the information, but how to package that and deliver that, I need experts who can do that. So if you can do that, then I think we can very quickly access those 25, 30 million kids.
That will be really excellent if we could definitely do it. And there is a need, there is a dire need that we
Yes.
should work in that area. So
Yes.
quickly,
Hmm.
like you have spent quite a long time on this chip technology that you
Hmm.
have given the introduction. So what is this chip technology and how it is transforming the economies of different countries and where we
So,
are in Pakistan
right.
in the
So,
race?
unfortunately, Pakistan is not on the scene yet,
Hmm.
right? That's another thing I am trying to see, whether we can kickstart some, just the basic,
Hmm.
skill set, right?
Hmm.
So the first thing we need is skill set, right? So chip manufacturing is a multi billion dollar business, right? We can't afford to wait for that business.
Hmm.
But chip design is relatively more modest in terms of investment, right?
Right.
But chip design also, you need a lot of team of experts, many different experts, right? There's architecture, there's circuit design, there's digital design, then there's what we call backend design, which is layout and things like that, right?
Hmm.
So there are many layers of design. Um, One thing which we can probably develop relatively easily is teach kids how to do circuit design, right?
Hmm.
So when someone is designing a product, right, um, there are architects who can do that, but then they need a lot of circuit designers who can do, the actual, this transistor needs to do this, and it has to be, sized at this level. I mean, there's
Hmm.
a lot of engineering
Right.
there.
Hmm.
Um, but that's a relatively packageable problem, right?
Hmm.
From a large problem, we
Hmm.
can package this thing, which is circuit design, and we can define it as a sort of a black box that can be delivered to a team, and they do the circuit design. And
Hmm.
as long as they can meet all the specifications,
Right.
right? There's a black box, it does everything that it needs to do, then it can be delivered and they can integrate it into their chip. So at that level, I think we can start now.
Hmm.
Um, there's also hopefully we can start at higher level design as well. I mean, this is how India started 30, 40 years ago, right? They started with
Hmm.
circuit design, then they started doing digital design, then they started doing chip design, then they started doing architecture, and now they can do entire thing top to bottom, right?
Hmm.
And now they're talking about building fabrication facilities, which is again multi-billion dollar factories, which
Hmm.
actually make those things, right? So
Right.
today, if let's say in Pakistan, even if we come up with some team which is designing chips, we
Hmm.
will make that design, right? But we will then deliver that as a computer file,
Hmm.
as a file to a manufacturing site, let's say in Taiwan, right? TSMC is a very big company which does chip fabrication. They will actually do the fabrication and they'll send the wafers back that then we can do testing and cutting and packaging.
Hmm.
So it's a trillion dollar industry,
Hmm.
but we can start with small steps and we
Hmm.
can build towards that. But definitely, I know some people who are trying to actually get that level of work started.
Hmm. So I know some of the professors. I don't know. You might have been in touch with those who are working in that area, but
Hmm.
definitely, if you are here in Pakistan, so we can definitely connect to those people who
Sure,
have
sure.
started working, and
Right.
you can definitely build a link with those people.
Hmm.
So at the end, I really wanted to have like more time from you, so we can
Absolutely. Same
discuss
here.
the things.
Same here.
Like there are so many other questions we would like to discuss on this forum, but time is very short. So at the end, I would like that you give a comment from your side to our future generation. What is your experience like in Pakistan,
Hmm.
initially starting from your education, and
Hmm.
then you spend a lot of time abroad, and you have started the Science
Hmm.
Ki Duniya, which is playing a very wonderful role. So, with all your experience,
Hmm.
what you with the passion you have for the Pakistan, so
Hmm.
what comment you will make for our future generation and for the whole country?
Well,
What
if I have
message
to
you?
say one thing, I will say there's no shortcut in
Hmm.
life.
Hmm.
We have to work hard if we want to make it big. And trust me, there's a huge opportunity in
Hmm.
ahead of us, right? As I said, all Asia is coming up.
Hmm.
Pakistan has huge opportunity, but no one is going to give it on a platter. We have to go and grab it, right? That means our kids have to work hard,
Hmm.
really honestly try to understand science, build expertise in technology,
Hmm.
and that doesn't come, sitting around. One has to work. So we have to commit to ourselves that we are going to work hard.
Mhm.
If we work hard, trust me, there are people who are willing to give guidance,
Mhm.
and in whichever way, little way, I am trying to help with Science Ki Duniya, and in future I'm trying to do more. But there are other people here. There are other channels who can help.
Mhm.
Science Ki Duniya, I think everyone knows that, and I can share more information about how to get in touch with me.
Mhm.
Um, I'm always there to ask any, answer any question.
Mhm.
But there are other people here, right? You are here. I'm sure other people are here. So there are experts. Our job should be part of our job should be matchmaking also, right?
Mhm.
Kids who have a lot of needs, technical needs,
Mhm.
right? They have questions, they need guidance, and we know people who can do that, and we need to sort of figure out how to connect them together.
Mhm. So with this, we must thank our guest, Mr. Qadeer Qureshi, for sparing time for us for today's. Although, like it was very hard to reach here, but still he could manage to reach here to join this program. And thank you so much for that. Thank you so much for sparing time, and thank you so much for doing lot of work for Pakistan, which is needed. I think we can get lot of inspiration from him. The kind of work he's doing, like sitting overseas, there are so many other overseas who can also contribute like him for the betterment of Pakistan. And this is how we can, like, as he mentioned, we have to work hard. We all have to work together to make our country prosperous. So with this, I'm once again thankful to our guest for joining us today. Narmi, I wrap up the discussion, but time is over, so I'm going to sign off.
Thank you
And
very much.
hopefully, we'll continue this kind of discussion in our future program.
Thank
Thank
you
you
very
very
much.
much for listening.
Thank you.